Most men go through life wasting years chasing after explanations that never come. They convince themselves that if they can just phrase things the right way, if they can just prove their loyalty one more time, then people will finally understand their worth. That's why you see so many men sitting in the dark at 2 a.m., typing out long messages, pouring their heart into words, thinking this explanation, this confession, this desperate attempt will be the thing that makes the other person see them clearly. But the truth is brutal. People who don't want to understand you never will. And every time you chase after that understanding, you bleed out more of your own power. Silence flips the script. When you go quiet, when you stop being the one who always reaches out, you learn very quickly who is real and who is only there because you kept the fire burning. Think about it. You've got that one friend, maybe that woman you've been chasing, even family members' relationships, where it's always you putting in the effort. You're the one making the calls, sending the texts, suggesting the meets. You're the glue, holding it together. And because you're the one constantly investing energy, you tell yourself the bond is strong. You tell yourself they care. But the moment you stop, the truth steps out from the shadows. When the silence stretches, when your phone no longer lights up because you stop sending the first message, something happens. The people who truly value you will notice your absence. They'll wonder where you've been. They'll check in. They'll ask how you're doing. They'll make an effort because they want you in their life, even when you're not the one keeping things alive. But the ones who are only comfortable taking from you, the ones who are coasting on your energy, they vanish. They don't call. They don't text. They don't even notice you're gone because you were never important to them. The first place, you were just convenient. At first, that silence cuts deep. It feels like betrayal. You sit there staring at your phone, realizing that maybe the relationship wasn't what you thought it was. You ask yourself hard questions, so it really was just me all along? And the sting of that realization can be painful. But don't run from that pain. Because that sting isn't just Panit's clarity. It's the truth you were avoiding while drowning in your own noise. Silence doesn't lie. It doesn't sugarcoat. It doesn't flatter your ego. It simply reveals reality as it is. And even when that reality hurts, it's a gift. Because the worst thing you can do as a man is spend years, sometimes decades, investing your time, energy, and loyalty into people who were never real with you from the beginning. Every word you spoke, every explanation you gave, every apology you shouldn't have made, that was energy wasted. Silence gives you the chance to stop wasting it. That's why silence is power. It doesn't just keep you steady, it uncovers the truth of who belongs in your life and who doesn't. The moment you stop being the one who explains, the one who chases, the one who fills every gap, you finally see what's real. And that clarity, no matter how sharp it feels at first, will save you from wasting years on people who were never going to value you anyway. ChatGPT said, "There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes how easy it is to throw his dignity away without even noticing it. It usually happens in those small, desperate moments when you've been ignored, dismissed, or left hanging. You call, and there's no answer. You send a message, and the reply never comes. Hours pass, maybe days, and you feel that frustration boiling inside you. So you give in. You send another text, maybe longer this time, pouring out what you really feel, hoping this will finally break through the silence. You tell yourself you're being honest. You're fighting for the relationship. You're showing loyalty. But the truth is, in that moment, you're trading your dignity for crumbs of attention. Because when that person finally replies with a one-word answer, "Okay, cool, all right," it hits you in the gut. All that energy, all that heart you gave, reduced to nothing in their eyes. That's the exact point where men lose the respect they should have for themselves. This is where silence changes everything. Silence is not avoidance. It's not cowardice. It's the ultimate shield for your dignity. Instead of chasing after someone who already decided you weren't a priority, you choose to step back and say nothing. That choice is powerful because it's no longer about them. It's about you. It's about respecting yourself enough not to beg for a seat in someone else's life. That's not arrogance. It's self-respect. It's the refusal to lower your value just to be tolerated. And once you start practicing that, something inside you shifts. You stop thinking about how to make them understand you, and you start realizing you don't need to explain yourself at all. Your presence alone is the value. If they can't see it, then nothing you say will ever make them. The mistake so many men make is thinking that words can convince someone to care. But words can be twisted, dismissed, or ignored. Silence, on the other hand, cannot. Silence is unshakable. It leaves no room for manipulation, no space for disrespect to keep happening. When you stop reaching out, you draw a line without having to announce it. And unlike words, silence cannot be used against you. You never have to regret something you didn't say. It also protects you from humiliation. Every time you explain, every time you overexpress, you give the other person the power to minimize you. You give them the opportunity to treat your deepest feelings as disposable. But when you choose silence, you never hand them that weapon. You'd never give them the chance to look at your vulnerability and shrug it off like it's nothing. Instead, you stand firm in your self-control. You send the message without saying a word: I will not beg to be seen. I will not fight to be valued. I will not trade my dignity for a reply. That kind of silence doesn't just protect your pride in the moment, it builds a foundation for how you carry yourself everywhere else. People begin to sense that energy. They see you don't explain yourself, you don't chase, you don't argue. You carry yourself like a man who knows he doesn't need validation. And that, ironically, is when people start respecting you more. Because nothing demands respect louder than silence held with confidence. Most people run to noise when their hearts are broken or their pride is bruised. They post cryptic quotes online, hoping someone will read between the lines. They call everyone in their contact list, repeating the same story over and over until it loses its meaning. They argue endlessly with the person who hurt them, chasing answers that never come. The problem with all that noise is simple: it doesn't heal you. It only keeps you spinning in the same circle, clouded by emotion, distracted by your own desperation. Noise keeps you busy, but it doesn't bring clarity. Silence does. When you stop reacting and give yourself room to breathe, your emotions start to settle. The storm inside you begins to quiet down, and in that stillness, the truth you've been avoiding starts to surface. At first, it feels uncomfortable because silence forces you to sit with the reality you've been trying to outrun. You start admitting things you didn't want to face. I stayed too long. They never valued me. I confused attention for love. I don't need closure. I need peace. These truths don't arrive in the middle of an argument or in the endless cycle of explaining yourself. They show up in the quiet, when no one else is around to feed your illusions. That's the discipline silence teaches you. It shows you that not every thought deserves to be spoken, not every feeling deserves to be acted on, and not every wound needs to be screamed into the world. In silence, you learn that you are strong enough to carry your pain without exploding. That is where clarity and self-control meet. Most men don't realize how much power they hand over when they can be easily provoked. If someone can push your buttons and watch you unravel, they own you. But silence breaks that cycle. It puts you back in charge of yourself. Clarity isn't just about seeing others for who they are, it's about seeing yourself clearly too. Silence forces you to confront your own patterns, your mistakes, your weak spots. Maybe you notice how much of your life has been spent seeking validation. Maybe you realize you've been addicted to attention because it distracted you from loneliness. These aren't easy truths, but they're necessary ones. And once you see them clearly, you can't unsee them. You can either keep repeating the same cycle, or you can grow. Silence gives you that choice. There's another kind of strength that grows in the quiet. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself, doesn't need to prove anything. It's the strength of a man who feels anger, but doesn't let it control him. Who feels heartbreak, but doesn't let it define him. Who feels the urge to lash out, but instead chooses stillness. That's real freedom, not being unhurt, but being unshakable in the face of hurt. The man who learns to sit with his silence discovers more about himself in 1 hour than others do in a lifetime of noise. And once you taste that clarity, once you feel the peace that comes from mastering your reactions, you realize that silence isn't empty at all. It's full of answers you could never hear while you were too busy making noise. You don't always need to announce your boundaries. You don't always need to explain why something crossed the line or why someone's behavior was unacceptable. Words can be twisted, taken out of context, or ignored altogether. You've probably seen it before. You tell someone they hurt you, and instead of owning up to it, they flip the script. It's making you seem unreasonable or too sensitive. You argue harder, you explain longer, and before you know it, the conversation is no longer about what they did, but about how you reacted. That's the trap of words. They can be bent until the truth is unrecognizable. Silence, on the other hand, is untouchable. It's the strongest boundary you can set because it leaves. It's no space for distortion. When you choose silence instead of reaction, you send a message words can never carry. You're saying without saying, this is where I stop. This is where I no longer give my energy. This is where you don't get access to me anymore. Silence creates an invisible wall that no one can argue against. A person can debate your words, but they can't debate your absence. They can try to downplay your feelings, but they can't downplay your withdrawal. That's the beauty of it. Silence is impossible to fight with. It doesn't give your opponent anything to push against. And silence doesn't just protect you, it makes people reflect. Think about how arguments usually play out. The moment you confront someone, they go on defense. They justify themselves. They make excuses. They blame you. Nothing gets resolved because they're too busy protecting their ego. But when you go silent, there's nothing for them to defend against. They're left with their own thoughts, and that emptiness starts to gnaw at them. Questions creep in. Why isn't he responding? Did I push him too far? Did I lose him? Your silence forces them to look at themselves in ways your words never could. Even if they don't admit it, even if they never apologize, that silence echoes in their minds. And long after any speech you could have given is forgotten, your silence lingers. It also exposes manipulation for what it is. Manipulators thrive on noise. They twist conversations, guilt trip you, gaslight you, flood you with words until you doubt your own sanity. They can only win when you keep engaging. But when you refuse to respond, when you stop feeding the fire, their power collapses. Silence holds up a mirror they can't escape. Their tricks no longer work when you don't play the game. That's when their mask slips. You finally see the truth of who they are. The greatest strength of silence is that it is both shield and sword. It protects you from being dragged into battles you can't win. And at the same time, it delivers the sharpest blow without you lifting a finger. When someone feels the weight of your silence, they understand in their bones that something shifted, that they no longer have the same access to you. That's when respect is born. Not because you demanded it, not because you argued for it, but because your silence left no other option. In the end, silence is the boundary that can't be broken, the line that can't be debated. It speaks louder than any declaration, and it leaves a deeper impact than any argument ever could.